So there was a comment on my last video that claimed that GPS spoofing is a solved problem. It claimed that OSNMA handles it and that I was hyping a threat that had already been fixed. Fair challenge. So I spent a week doing the research, and what I found surprised me. Let's dive into it. So I used to lead the cybersecurity program from Amazon CHIMERA. A few weeks ago, I released a video about a policy fight that could turn into a public safety issue. And that's the video this comment was on. And frankly, it deserves a real answer. So here's what you're going to walk away with. 3 things specifically. 1, you'll understand how we got here, specifically why civilian GPS is unauthenticated by design. 2, you'll see what OSNMA actually solves, and more importantly, what it doesn't. And 3, I'm going to give you a defense in-depth strategy that addresses the risks I flagged in the earlier video. Now, if you don't understand the original design decision, you can't really evaluate the fix. So let's go back and look at the historical aspects of this. The story starts in 1973. A group of engineers designed GPS. They did it over a long weekend, and they made one foundational decision. There would be 2 signals. The first one would be for military, and then the other one would be for civilian. The military signal would be encrypted and authenticated for obvious reasons, and the civilian signal was going to be openly documented. It would be published so anyone could build a receiver, and that openness was an important part of the design. It was necessary so the GPS could become the valuable civilian technology that it is today. But it's important to remember that civilian GPS is unauthenticated, it's unencrypted, and it's susceptible to spoofing and jamming. And there are a few key facts to help us understand this. The civilian signal structure really hasn't changed in any meaningful way since 1973. The spreading codes are public. Think of spreading codes like a unique pattern or a fingerprint. Each satellite broadcasts its own, and your GPS receiver listens to that exact pattern to know which satellite it's hearing and how far away it is. And because those patterns are published in open documents, anyone can generate them and transmit a signal that looks legitimate to a receiver. You can purchase a software-defined radio online, also known as an SDR. A software-defined radio is basically just a programmable radio transmitter. You can plug it into your computer and use it to broadcast and receive radio frequencies. With that and some open source code on GitHub, you can get spoofing up for a few hundred to a few $1,000s. This isn't something that requires nation-state resources. Now, this could be a weekend project. However, I don't recommend it because it's highly illegal. Very few people are allowed to legally experiment with GPS, which is part of the reason that so many people feel like this is a difficult attack to pull off. But history has been clear on this pattern. Every time we discount an attacker's motives or underestimate their access to hardware, it ends badly. All right, now back to the comment on my earlier video. The sentiment in the viewer's comment wasn't wrong. OSNMA is a significant milestone. But there's more to the story, and it changes the safety calculation. So OSNMA stands for Open Source Navigation Message Authentication. But first, let me give you a little context. GPS is just one satellite navigation system. It's the one that originated in America. But other countries and regions have developed their own. For example, Europe has Galileo. GLONASS is in Russia. China has their own. Japan has their own. These are all GNSS systems, or Global Navigation Satellite Systems. Modern receivers usually listen to several of them at once to get a better fix. So where exactly does OSNMA fit in? It's Galileo's answer to this spoofing problem. Galileo is Europe's GNSS. So OSNMA went operational on July 24th, 2025, not too long ago. And it's the first civilian authentication feature for global navigation satellite systems in the world. It's free and it's global. You just have to purchase a receiver that can handle it. That's pretty cool. The team deserves massive kudos for this work. So here's a mental model you can use to understand this. Think about logging into your bank account. You type a username and password, and the bank uses that password to confirm that you are who you say you are. OSNMA does the same thing for satellite signals. Each navigation message arrives with proof of the satellite's identity, and your receiver can use that to verify the message. You can still read the message because it's not encrypted, but crucially, you know it actually came from a Galileo satellite and not from an attacker on the ground with a software-defined radio. Under the hood, OSNMA uses a protocol called Tesla. That's an acronym, no relation to the car company. The satellite signs each navigational message with a secret key. Then it discloses that key a few seconds later. By the time the key is public, your receiver already has the message and the signature buffered, and you actually verify backward in time. So that's a pretty clever approach, and it works well for what it was designed to do. Here's what OSNMA solves. First, it prevents an attacker from forging a fake navigation message because each message is signed with a special key. It detects tampering with satellite position and clock data, so this makes spoofing attacks considerably harder to pull off. But there are 4 things OSNMA does not solve. First, it doesn't stop jamming. But there's some good news here. The next version of Galileo, called G2, does include jamming resistance. The bad news is that the launch has slipped several times. The first 4 G2 satellites are planned for the next 2 years, and there's a total of 12. So we're likely not going to have this available to us for a few years. Second, going back to OSNMA, it only authenticates Galileo, not GPS or the other GPS equivalents like GLONASS or China's version. Now, cross-authentication for GPS is planned, but it's not coming until 2028 or later. Third, there's a startup delay. And this is important. It takes roughly 100 seconds to get your first authenticated fix. And that's in ideal conditions. In urban environments, it takes longer. For a drone, that's a problem on both ends of the flight. Before takeoff, you're either waiting on the pad or you're launching without an authenticated fix. And if anything blocks or disrupts that signal mid-flight, like a building or you're flying through a canyon, you're going to be flying without authentication location until that receiver recovers. That's another 100 seconds of unauthenticated operation while you're flying in the air. And fourth, and this is the one that changes the conversation. So back in January 2025, some researchers published a research paper called Practical Spoofing Attacks on Galileo OSNMA. They used 2 software-defined radios, and the total equipment cost was just under $5,000. They demonstrated 3 new attack classes against a commercial OSNMA-enabled receiver. One of them, which is called the TS-Comply forgery attack, forges fake navigational messages that pass authentication. So in that case, the attacker can tell the drone or the receiver on the drone it's anywhere they want and steer it accordingly. And while it's doing it, the receiver shows that it's authenticated the entire time. So that's worth repeating. The receiver reports OSNMA authenticated, successful, and the position is spoofed. Now I know some of you are going to want to pick this apart, and that's good. The research paper is linked below. So is my newsletter, which covers the details I can't fit in one video. So go ahead and go check it out. Leave comments in the video if you find something that I missed here. Now, GPS has its own answer in development. It's called CHIMERA, and it stands for Chips Message Robust Authentication. It's more ambitious than OSNMA. It authenticates both the message and the signal timing, which closes the gap that January 2025 research paper exposed. So where are we today with CHIMERA? CHIMERA is being tested on a satellite called NTS-3. It was originally planned to launch in 2022, but it didn't actually launch until August 2025. It's a 3-year delay. Testing is going to run through 2026, and after that, it has to be built into the next generation of GPS satellites. Realistic operational data for CHIMERA on GPS, it's probably going to be in the late 2020s to mid 2030s. So here's the honest picture. Galileo's OSNMA works with known limits today. GPS CHIMERA is years away. Unfortunately, many commercial delivery drones in the US use GPS-only receivers. So those won't benefit from OSNMA without a receiver upgrade. And this is really where defense in depth comes in. We don't rely on a single control, especially when safety is in the mix. Instead, we build layers, multiple redundant controls that keep the drone and the individuals affected by the drone safe. So I'm going to go through 6 layers that you can stack. First, authentication. Use an OSNMA-capable receiver. But as I just said, OSNMA only covers Galileo. So the second is use multi-constellation support. GPS plus Galileo plus GLONASS or whatever else you want to use multiple constellations to cross-check each other. Third, inertial navigation cross-check. An IMU, or an inertial measurement unit, can't be spoofed by radio. Use that to back up the GPS. Fourth, receiver-level anomaly detection. This is built into some of the higher-end receiver units. Use it, it's there. Might as well take advantage of it. Fifth, use alternative PNT, which stands for positioning, navigation, and timing. Things like using cameras to track landmarks, magnetic field navigation, or even just cellular positioning. Sixth, behavior anomaly detection. If the aircraft thinks it teleported or moves suddenly and the other sensors don't agree, flag it. Okay, so here's the budget reality. An OSNMA-capable receiver with anti-spoof features runs just under $1,000. It's not free, but it's roughly the cost of a new iPhone. So back to the comment that started this. OSNMA is legitimately real progress, but solved is probably the wrong word for it. Galileo authentication works today, but it's got some limits. GPS authentication through CHIMERA is still years away, and the only thing that really actually protects a delivery drone in 2026 is defense in depth. That's the reality, and that's what we have to build. All right, so if you want an executive briefing version of this with the regulatory implications, the board level talking points, and the deeper technical references, I break it all down in the Product Security Playbook, and I'll leave a link in the description. If you found this useful, the companion video is my drone safety and design breakdown from a few weeks back. That's the video the comment was responding to. Watch that one next. I'll see you there.